Poor girl with no shoes shocks millionaire CEO at 3 a.m. interview her epic journey to success. Mira Santos stood on the edge of fate, her bare feet gripping the cold pavement like an anchor pulling her down. The chill of the night pierced through her soul. At 3 in the morning, a dewy fog rolled in, wrapping around her shivering figure, hiding the city's skyscrapers like watchful giants. She was just a girl in a tattered dress, her only possession a threadbare backpack, yet tonight, she was destined to shake the foundations of the corporate world. The luminescent sign above the towering glass building glowed ominously, its brightness a stark contrast to her shadowy existence. And inside, the billionaire CEO, Nathan Duval, awaited her arrival, unaware his life was about to be turned upside down. Rolling clouds swirled ominously overhead, reminiscent of a brewing storm, as Mira stepped into the lobby. Her heart raced like a wild stallion. The grandeur she faced was suffocating, walls glistening and polished, but she was undeterred, the fire of ambition burning in her chest. She had always been different. While others whispered about the riches of the world, she had scribbled dreams in the margins of her notebook. Barefoot, yes, but never voiceless. This was her moment, her chance to unveil the hidden truth behind the glossy corporate veil. People glanced at her with confusion, eyebrows raised, murmurs spreading like wildfire. What is she doing here? Who let her in? It stung their judgment wrapped around her like barbed wire. Yet, she could feel the weight of their gaze like a spotlight, and she soaked it in, craving the fuel that doubt provided. As she approached the waiting room, a tense silence fell. Duval's team, the shark-eyed executives, sat huddled together, poison-lipped smiles on their faces. It was a game one they thought they could win without even knowing her story. One strange detail struck her. The office was filled with tropical plants, each leaf lush and vibrant, yet they whispered the slow decay of the cut stems. Like her life. She had harvested beauty from despair, each struggle a lesson learned, rooting her deeper into who she was. The thought was almost comforting, at least she wasn't plastic. No, she was alive, in a way many of them would never understand. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Mira stepped into the CEO's office, the tension crackled like static electricity. Duval lounged casually, his tailored suit pristine, a picture of privilege and power. "Why are you here?" he asked, leaning back in his chair, amusement lacing his voice. But there was something in his eyes, an unspoken challenge. And with a deep breath, Mira felt the weight of the world shift. No shoes, yes, but she had something far more valuable: her story. Would she unravel it? Would they even listen? That's when a deep knowing stirred within her like a brewing cyclone, and the words began to tumble out, unscripted and raw. But just then, a phone rang, breaking the moment, sending a shiver down her spine. Who was on the other end? What would they uncover next? A secret lurking just beyond the shimmering reflections of power? Mira paused, realizing she wasn't just fighting for a chance, she was fighting for a truth buried deep within the concrete jungle, one desperately in need of exposure. The phone rang again, piercing the silence like a knife. Duval shot Mira a glance, bemusement shifting to irritation. He raised a finger to silence the device, but the urgency of the call seemed to cling to the air. It rang 3 times, each chime echoing ominously through the plush office. Then, Duval finally picked it up, his expression hardening the moment he pressed the phone to his ear. "Yeah?" His voice was clipped, almost gravelly, stripping the amusement from the room. Mira took that moment to assess him, studying how he sat behind his expensive desk, a fortress of wealth and privilege. Yet, something flickered in his gaze as he listened intently. Was it anger? Fear? Mira's heart thudded in her chest. She could feel the energy shift, a sudden storm of tension swirling around them. Duval's brow furrowed deeper, and he leaned forward, gripping the edge of the desk. Whatever was being said on the other end seemed to rattle him to his core. Is this a joke? Duval barked, his tone darkening like thunderclouds. You know who you're talking to, right? Her pulse raced. This was not just a job interview anymore. This was a moment steeped in chaos, woven with secrets that threatened to unravel the carefully stitched fabric of the room. Duval listened, replying with terse, guarded phrases. Each word seemed to provoke shadows in the corners of his eyes, stirring something deep and unsettling. Find out where it's coming from. No, don't even think about that. Secure the perimeter. He hung up abruptly, his face drained of humor, now chiseled in stone. What was that about? Mira ventured, her voice steady despite the wild thrumming of uncertainty. Duval's eyes flared with an intensity that sent a chill down her spine. It's not your concern, he snapped, but she could see the cracks in his composure. I'm pretty sure it is, she shot back, emboldened by the tumult of her own life. You think I came here just to impress you? I'm here because I need a chance, and enough. Duval thundered, rising to his feet, towering over her. You don't know anything about this world. You think your story matters? You think you can shake me? Mira stood her ground, the defiance surging through her. She shook her head slowly, her voice lower but more insistent. No one's asking you to be shaken. I'm asking you to listen. What if you opened your eyes to something that could change? Open my eyes. He laughed bitterly, but the sound was hollow. People like you don't change us. You're just a girl without shoes. What could you possibly? Maybe I could show you how those shoes don't define strength, Mira interrupted, her confidence sharpening like a blade. You think I'm alone? I carry the struggles of so many. You hide behind your money and your power, but what do you really have at stake? The room grew electric. Duval's expression shifted to one of reluctant intrigue, curiosity mingling with his aura of authority. Then the phone buzzed to life again. No, I'm done, he started, then paused. Mira felt the world leaning in, balancing on the precipice. Wait, Duval's brows knitted together tightly. What do you mean there's been a breach? Where? Her breath hitched. Something more was at play, a danger that darkened the atmosphere, a connection she needed to unravel. Mira's mind raced. Would tonight mark not just the union of their paths, but perhaps a pivotal moment in some greater scheme? What was that? Her voice broke through the thick tension. Duval shot her a sharp glance, his arrogance cracking just a bit. You could get deep in this, Mira. You might want to let it go. But the plea hadn't yet found his lips, tethered to the urgency of the moment. Suddenly, she realized what he was guarding, what he feared, a truth that could unravel the threads of his empire. The stakes were higher than she had ever believed, and within that revelation, a shudder of hope flickered within her. Would you listen to me now? Mira challenged, her heart racing with a mix of dread and determination. And just then, as tension hung thick in the air, the flashing lights of emergency vehicles illuminated the office windows, resonating with an alarming siren outside. In an instant, the balance shifted, and both Mira and Duval understood, everything was about to change. What forces had come for him? An empire on the brink? Or was it something even more sinister? The sirens blared like banshees outside, slicing through the fabric of tension that had settled between Mira and Duval. The flashing lights cast erratic shadows across the office, illuminating the stiffness in the air, shifting their expressions from agitation to alarm. Duval's eyes darted toward the windows, tension coiling tighter in the space between them. What's happening? Mira asked, her voice barely rising above the chaos outside. She felt a cold wave of fear wash over her, fighting for supremacy against the fierce resolve she had summoned only moments before. Duval took a slow step away from her, his demeanor changing as the layers of bravado melted away. With the phone still clutched in his hand, he moved to the edge of his desk, staring at the chaotic scene unfolding beyond the glass. "Stay here," he ordered flatly, and for the first time, she sensed the urgency in his tone matching the pulse of the emergency echoes outside. "Duval," she began, but he was already striding towards the door, the lines of concern deepening on his brow. He shot her a glance over his shoulder, an unspoken warning passing between them, as if the shadows on his face paved the way for buried truths to surface. The door swung open, and he slipped into the hallway, which was alive with frantic energy. Mira hesitated, her instincts at war. Part of her wanted to follow, to press him for answers, but another part warned her that she was stepping into an abyss far beyond her understanding. Still, she couldn't let him go. Not now. Taking a breath, she followed him into the fray. The wall's muted opulence evaporated into harsh fluorescent lights and shouted instructions. There were figures in crisp uniforms rushing back and forth, their faces grim as they moved with purpose, straining against the rising tide of urgency that seemed to amplify with each siren wail. "Mira." Duval's voice cut through the frenetic atmosphere. His expression shifted, he was focused now, the executive mask slipping back into place. "You shouldn't be here." But she didn't care. What is going on? She couldn't shake her desire for answers. "You can't just walk away. This matters." He inhaled, as if holding back a cascade of buried fears. "No, it doesn't. You have no idea what you're about to step into." In that moment, a woman in uniform approached him, her demeanor all business. "Mr. Duval, we've lost control of the main entrance. They're asking for you, but what do they want?" Duval interjected sharply, his earlier composure strained. The calm authority he usually exuded now surfed the edges of panic. The officer hesitated, glancing at Mira as if weighing the danger of including her. "They're asking for information. They're certain someone inside has information that connects to a larger incident. They need to secure everything now." "Everything?" Mira felt the weight of those words settle in her chest. Duval looked at her, his face hardening, as if she were the very embodiment of the chaos closing in. "Get her out of here." He barked to the officer, pointing to Mira, igniting a fire within her. "You don't just shove me aside. I'm here for something." "Mira." Duval's voice rose above the clamor. "No." She took a step forward, her courage swelling. "I want in. You think your empire can protect you? This is bigger than all of us." The officer's brows knitted together, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Duval shifted on his feet, tension coiling tighter around them, the walls of his world threatening to cave in. "Enough!" he shouted, eyes flaring. "I won't let you become." The ground shook beneath them, a deep rumble chasing away the safety of his sanctuary. The sound came from below, like the very foundation of the world protesting against whatever sinister force lurked just beyond their control. "What was that?" Mira gasped, heart racing. Duval's face paled, the truth shattering around them like glass shrouded in a darkness they couldn't escape. The entire building creaked ominously, and Mira knew with stark clarity that whatever was coming was here. As the air thickened with impending disaster, Duval grabbed her wrist, pulling her with him down the hallway. "Follow me," he barked, urgency flickering in his otherwise cold demeanor. Every nerve in her body screamed for her to turn back, but the thrill of the unknown tied them together. What were they about to unveil? Would they stand against the oncoming storm, or would it consume them both? They darted down the hallway, raw adrenaline pushing them forward. Duval's grip tightened around Mira's wrist as they navigated through a sea of chaos. Alarms blared relentlessly, intertwined with the footsteps of the frantic crowd racing to secure every exit. Each step resonated through the polished marble floors, hammering the urgency into Mira's core. "Where are we going?" she panted, trying to keep pace with Duval's long strides. His eyes flickered toward doors marked with bright red exit symbols, each one leading to unknown threats outside. "Just trust me." He shot back without breaking his stride, his voice laced with an edge that sharpened Mira's resolve. Duval rarely showed this side of himself. It felt both alarming and oddly reassuring, a glimpse of the man behind the polished facade. They stumbled into a large meeting room, the once elegant space now a frantic hub of electricity. Employees huddled around tables, poring over documents that seemed to hold secrets too powerful to remain hidden. Mira so desperately wanted to know what was happening, but there was no time to ask. "Duval, you have to tell me," she insisted, her heart racing against the strobing rhythm of chaos surrounding them. "What's really going on?" He hesitated, the weight of unresolved fears etched on his face. "We're under threat," he finally admitted, glancing at the door, as if it might betray them at any moment. "Someone inside the building, they know something that could destroy everything I've built." Mira's pulse quickened. The underlying depth of their confrontation was now clear. "But why is that a threat to me?" "They might think you're involved." "They don't know, not yet." His voice faltered, revealing a crack in his armor. Before she could respond, the ground shuddered again, more violently this time. A scream erupted from one of the employees nearby, drawing their attention. The usually immaculate ceiling tiles trembled, droplets of dust and plaster cascading down like an unwelcome rain. Mira felt a rush of nausea as reality pressed down hard against her will, clawing at her mind with visions of what could happen. "Get everyone out!" Duval shouted over the din, panic sharpening his features. "Now!" Hands shook as employees scrambled for their phones, shouting instructions. The air crackled with fear, each person recognizing that the mere act of leaving might not guarantee their safety. Moments stretched painfully, weighted by uncertainty, as Mira felt the split-second decisions ignite her own instincts for survival. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the front of the building, shaking windows and rattling nerves. Mira's breath froze in her throat. "What was that?" she whispered, fear creeping back in like a cold fog. Duval's eyes went wide as he glanced at a nearby window, and anger flickered across his face. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. They won't stop until they find what they're looking for." He stormed toward the door, but before he could reach for it, it bursts open with force, sending a blast of cold air and light into the room. Mira's heart ratcheted up another notch as a figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the chaos beyond. The sudden stillness in the air was suffocating. "Who let her in?" the figure barked, voice dripping with authority. Every head turned toward Mira, an accusing silence wrapping around her. The tension snapped as Duval stepped protectively in front of her, defiance radiating off him. "She's not a threat." He spat, eyes narrowed. But the figure laughed, a dark and menacing sound that chilled Mira to the bone. "You still think you can protect her? You have no idea what you're dealing with." The door slammed shut behind them, sealing off their escape and plunging them deep into a web of uncertainty. As Duval prepared to confront the looming danger, Mira felt the ground shift beneath her once more. Would she emerge unscathed from this chaos, or would she become entangled in the dangerous game already in play? The moment of truth was drawing closer. What horrific secrets would they unearth, and who would survive to tell the tale? In that suffocating stillness, Duval instinctively stepped forward, a human shield, every muscle in his body poised for confrontation. Mira felt a surge of conflicting emotions: fear for her safety, loyalty to Duval, and an unsettling curiosity about the figure who had entered their world and darkened it even further. "Who are you?" Duval demanded, voice steady but laced with raw tension. The figure chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. "You should know by now, Duval. Secrets don't stay hidden forever." He took a step closer, and in the light, his features sharpened into something terrifyingly familiar. It was Marcus, Duval's former partner, whose betrayal had sent ripples through their world. "What do you want?" Mira felt her voice rise above the whispers and gasps around them, the mix of bravado and dread barely masking her vulnerability. Was she the real target here? Marcus smirked, a calculating glint in his eyes. Your little romance is amusing, but let's not pretend it's all that matters. Duval is sitting on a goldmine, and I plan to reclaim what's mine. Mira's throat tightened. You think I'm just a pawn in your game? Oh, you're much more than that, he replied, his gaze flickering to Duval. You're his Achilles heel. What better way to destroy a man than to take the one thing he loves? Mira felt Duval tense, her heart stuttering. The way Marcus spoke, as if their fates were a mere chess match, sent icy fingers dancing down her spine. Duval tightened his grip on her hand, anchoring her in the furious tide of fear and uncertainty. That's enough. Duval's voice came out as a growl, raw with emotion. Let her go, Marcus. She has nothing to do with this. Really? Marcus's eyes glinted with malicious amusement. It seems she has everything to do with it. You keep her close because you think she makes you stronger. What happens when they come for her next? Mira felt a wave of anger and fear clash within her, the implication of Marcus's words piercing through her defenses. Stop it! She shouted, her voice cracking. You don't have to involve me in your battles. This is between the two of you. But Duval's glare burned fiercely. No, it's not just between us. They wanted you as leverage, Mira. You're in danger, and I want to let you become a pawn. This isn't about your feelings, Duval. This is a power play, Marcus interjected, moving closer, every step heavy with menace. And a little girl like her? She's the ideal bait. Before Mira could respond, an explosion of shouts erupted from outside the meeting room. The sound of glass shattering and the piercing wail of sirens caused her heart to leap into her throat. Panic spread through the crowd like wildfire, tearing through the fragile calm that had held them together mere moments ago. Now you have a choice, Marcus said, sneering. Run with me, or stay and play the hero. But know this, Duval. Saviors don't always survive. Adrenaline coursed through Mira. The stakes had never been higher, and every second counted. Duval shot her a look, something unspoken passing between them, heavy and irrevocable. Come on, he whispered, eyes blazing. We need to go. Now. Myra's heartbeat thundered in her ears, every instinct screaming at her to run, yet a other part of her felt rooted, caught in Marcus's web of twisted power. She glanced back at the chaos spilling outside and the shadow looming nearer. A split second of doubt flashed in her mind. Could she truly outrun the threat that encircled them? Your choice, Mira. Marcus taunted, grinning as though enjoying a grim performance. The door loomed behind them, the chaos a tangible threat. Go or stay, make it quick. Duval urged, urgency laden in every word. As fear coiled around her, stifling her breath, she realized one thing: she was already a part of this treacherous game. But would she rise or fall? That was the question that hung in the charged air, a precursor to the storm looming just beyond the door. Mira's heart raced, the chaos outside still palpable, reverberating in her chest like an ominous drumbeat. The decision felt like an unbearable weight pressing down on her. Duval's hand was firm around hers, anchoring her as she grappled with her fears. Go. Duval insisted, his voice low but fierce. Just leave her, Duval. Marcus hissed, stepping closer, his shadow stretching ominously across the room. You think this is the end? You're playing checkers when I'm playing chess. My next move will involve far more than just you two. Mira's thoughts spiraled. The notion of running away flickered brightly, but the intensity in Marcus's eyes sent chills racing through her veins. The fire alarm blared overhead, shocking her back to the moment. People screamed outside, the panic infectious, igniting a burning desire for survival. Please, we can't stay here. She cried out, the urgency bubbling over. The thought of being trapped, cornered like prey, gnawed at her instincts. Duval didn't let go. Instead, he stepped forward, shielding her with his body once more. You think threatening her is going to get to me? You're wrong, Marcus. I'll never abandon her, not to you or anyone else. For now, Marcus shot back with a derisive chuckle, but a man can only take so much. With that, the shadows deepened, the tension in the air sharper, more electric. Duval's determination flickered in the dim light, but so did the possibility of losing Mira. Marcus stepped back, a sly smile creeping across his face. Everything was unfolding exactly as he had planned. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hall, sending bits of plaster from the ceiling swirling around them. Mira's instincts kicked in. Now. We need to go. She yanked on Duval's hand, and he hesitated, conflicted, eyes darting between her and Marcus. The flame of uncertainty danced precariously in his gaze. Was it smarter to flee or confront the man who knew deep cuts the perfect weapon against their bond? I won't sacrifice anyone, Duval said, face hardening. He turned to Marcus, eyes narrowing. You can't win this. What you're trying to do, it won't work. The things matter to me more than your twisted ambitions. Marcus laughed, a grating sound. It's adorable that you think that. But this game just got started, and trust me, it's going to get messy. He shifted, revealing a cold glint in his eyes that sent fresh dread racing under Mira's skin. With the noise building outside, the choices loomed heavier than ever. Endless thoughts lashed around in her mind like desperate lightning bolts. What was the right choice? Stay, confront the threat together, or abandon her heart and run. But then, she saw him again, Marcus, sinister and smug, feeding off their tension. He thrived in the chaos, and fear curled in her stomach. But before she could finish, the door suddenly burst open. A figure swept in, eerily silhouetted against the blazing lights from the hall. The air thickened as the crackling tension shifted, making it hard to breathe. Mira! The newcomer shouted, voice familiar yet strained, and everything shifted. Stay back! Duval roared, pushing Mira behind him. The scene unfolded like a slow-motion nightmare. Had their worst fears just materialized? With Marcus mocking them in the periphery, this appeared far from over. The storm had only begun. What more was out there, waiting to lash out against them? As Mira's like a tide, retreated further from safety, her eyes darted back to Duval. Could he really protect both of them, or would they slip into the chaos together? The decision would linger, plaguing her heart with unanswered questions. Outside, more shouts erupted, and sirens blared like a siren song of desperation. Who had just walked into their collision course of chaos? More importantly, were they friend or foe? The figure stepped into the room, revealing a familiar face. Kelly, Myra's childhood friend, tangled in fear yet radiating urgency. What are you idiots doing? She shouted, breathless with panic. The hallway behind her flickered with wavering shadows as the chaos surged closer. They're coming. We have to get out now. Duval glanced at Mira, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. He knew this was no time for hesitation. Kelly, what's going on? Who's coming? The ones Marcus sent. There she cut herself off as another crash echoed behind her, a heavy sound of footsteps thundering down the hall. Outside now. Marcus barked, his grin fading. The atmosphere shifted in an instant, transforming from a tense standoff into sheer desperation. He turned to flee, eyes darting toward the escape routes as if he could smell the fear off the walls. Without thinking, Duval grabbed Mira's hand. We've got to move. He's right about one thing. If we don't get out of here, we're done. Wait! Mira shouted, torn between her friend and the chaos invading their precious space. Panic coursed through her, and one glance at Marcus's retreating figure made her stomach twist. But there was no time to deliberate. They had to leave, had to survive. Kelly reached for Mira's other hand, her grip tight, her eyes wild. We can't split up. Stick together. As they moved toward the exit, the floor trembled beneath their feet. Mira fought through the rising panic, taking deep breaths, grounding herself in the buzzing alarms and desperate screams that echoed outside. The flashing lights outside flickered through the doorway, casting eerie shadows that danced like restless spirits. Rushing forward, they barreled into the hallway, the fiery lights illuminating their frantic expressions. The scene before them chilled Mira to the bone. Chaos erupted beyond the doors, frantic bodies pushing, shoving, and colliding, each trying to escape the nightmare unfolding beneath them. "They're right behind us," Kelly yelled, fear lacing her voice. A sickening realization washed over Mira. They weren't just escaping chaos, they were fleeing something far more sinister lurking in the shadows. As they plunged into the maelstrom, heads turned, eyes widened, and cries escalated. Duval pushed them through the crowded masses, every step resonating with urgency. Mira felt the crushing pressure of people surrounding them, hearts thumping in unison, fear, hope, desperation. Suddenly, a loud crack rang out, and something sharp whizzed past her ear. A chill coursed down Mira's spine as she recognized the flash of steel. Someone had a weapon. "Get down!" Duval shouted, dragging both women to the ground just as chaos erupted around them. Screams blended into a cacophony of terror, shaking the very foundations of the building. Mira's heart thundered in her ears. She glanced at Duval. Determination was written across his face, but she could still see exhaustion lurking in his eyes. "Are we gonna make it?" she breathed, voice trembling with uncertainty as she squeezed Kelly's hand tighter. "Trust me," he replied fiercely. "We're not going to lose anyone else." If they reached the door outside, they would find freedom, but that fleeting hope felt miles away. The noise had reached a feverish pitch, the air thickened with suffocating dread. Then, a figure emerged from the fray, weaving through the chaos like a ghost. Marcus, now an imposing shadow. He turned back, a demonic look in his eyes. "I told you it was just beginning," he roared, and in that moment, everything shifted. Just as he lunged, the world seemed to slow. The echoes of chaos faded into a haunting silence. Mira gasped, her grip slipping as reality blurred around her. Would they escape? Or would Marcus's twisted game ensnare them all? With one last, desperate look at Duval, Mira realized time was no longer on their side. The moment of truth was crashing down, and this time, there was no turning back. What other horrors awaited them right outside that door? Mira barely registered the moment when everything around her erupted into chaos again. Marcus lunged forward, his eyes wild, mouth twisted in a grotesque smile. Just as panic set deeper in her gut, some instinct kicked in. "Now!" she screamed, pulling Duval and Kelly to their feet. Duval's grip on her wrist felt like a lifeline as they stumbled toward the door. The hallway was a whirlwind of frenzied bodies, the shadows creeping closer, almost alive, threatening to consume them. Every step echoed with a primal urgency, and Mira's heart raced alongside an ever-increasing sense of doom. "Move, move, move," Duval urged, eyes darting, trying to predict the threat still looming behind them. Kelly, almost hyperventilating, squeezed Mira's hand harder. They barreled through the crowd, shouting for people to make way. Panic was contagious, spreading like wildfire. Suddenly, there was a scuffle at their backs. Mira turned, her stomach dropping as she saw a group of armed figures breaking through, cold steel shining ominously in the flashing lights. "They're here!" Mira shouted, adrenaline sharpening her voice into a lance against the rising tide of terror. "What are they doing?" Kelly gasped, glancing over her shoulder. But there was no time to comprehend, only to react. "Keep going," Duval yelled, shoving them ahead. "We're almost there." Mira's lungs burned as they sprinted toward the exit, dread gripping at her throat. The chaotic scene around her morphed into a blur of screaming faces and oppressive shadows pressing in like a wave. Just as they reached the door, she felt a heavy body collide against her, knocking her off balance. "Mira!" Duval shouted. A piercing scream cut through the din. It wasn't just a fear cry, it was filled with pain, raw and unsettling. Mira's heart pounded louder as she made instinctive eye contact with Duval. Resolve flashed between them. They couldn't let fear dictate their fate. With a fierce tug, Duval pulled her forward and Kelly stumbled after them. Bursting through the door, they were greeted by a sudden burst of cold air and blinding lights. But there was no reprieve waiting beyond it. A dark, sprawling parking lot lay in front, crammed with cars but eerily silent. "Where do we go from here?" Mira gasped, breathless and wide-eyed. "Lies. It's lies." A figure in the distance shouted, voice cracking with desperation. A streetlight flickered ominously, revealing a trench coat dragging behind a man approaching them with unsteady steps. "It's all a trap." "What is he talking about?" Kelly whispered, her voice shaking. "He can't help us," Duval muttered, scanning their surroundings like a hawk. "We need to get to the car." Before they could start moving, a gunshot rang out, loud and piercing. The sound ricocheted off the walls of the parking structure. Mira froze, paralyzed by the bone-chilling echo that reverberated through her. Someone was in pursuit. "Mira!" Duval shouted again, breaking through the fog of fear. "We have to go." With her heart racing, she turned and sprinted. They dashed toward the nearest vehicle, and Duval fumbled for the handle, eyes darting anxiously. Just as they reached the car, 2 more shots fired, splitting the silent night. "Get in!" Duval ordered as he yanked the back door open. As they piled in, Kelly's face was pale, eyes full of tears as panic captured her voice. "What if they catch us?" "Just trust me," Duval said, his expression fierce. "We won't let them." The engine roared to life as the headlights pierced the darkness, illuminating everything around. A scene of chaos, shadows darting, and figures running toward them. They were ready to flee, but behind them, the figure in the trench coat stumbled closer, terror etched on his face. "It's not just them!" he yelled. Before they could process his words, Duval slammed on the gas, tires screeching as they tore out of the lot. Mira clutched her seat, mind racing with questions, confusion swirling like a storm within her. "What did he mean?" she whispered, panic still gripping her heart. "What else is coming?" Duval gripped the wheel tighter, eyes narrowing in determination. "I don't know, but we can't slow down now." And just like that, they vanished into the night, leaving the chaos behind. But the question remained: what other horrors awaited them in the dark corners of their world, when they thought they had escaped them all? The roar of the engine faded into a low growl as Duval pushed the car faster down the empty streets. The world outside was a blur of flickering streetlights and shadows dancing along the road. Mira's heart pounded in sync with the tires tearing against the asphalt, but she couldn't shake the feeling that danger still lurked in every dark corner. "Where are we going?" Kelly asked, her voice trembling. She was curled up in her seat, eyes wide with fear. "Anywhere but here," Duval replied, teeth gritted. "We need to find a safe place to regroup and figure out what's happening." "But that man, he said it was all a trap." Mira blurted out, her mind racing. She kept replaying his frantic words, like an echo that wouldn't fade. "What if we're being followed?" "Focus." "We can't think like that," Duval snapped, glancing in the rearview mirror, tension tightening the corners of his mouth. "We're fine, for now." But the "for now" hung in the air, heavy and charged with uncertainty. Mira's stomach churned as they rounded a corner. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the car. A fleeting sensation of dread washed over her. "What was that?" she gasped, panic knitting her brows. Duval cursed under his breath, and Mira's heart raced again, not just from fear, but from a new kind of anguish. It sounded like a tire. The car swerved to the side, groaning in protest. As it coasted to a halt, Mira felt the vibrancy of fear wrap around her like a vice. They weren't just any ordinary people caught in a fleet of chaos anymore. They were here, now immobilized, stuck in the line of fire, with fate weaving a web they couldn't escape from. "Stay down!" Duval shouted, pushing them both lower in their seats. Mira did as she was told, her breath hitching in her throat. "I'll check it out." "Are you crazy?" Kelly cried, clawing at Duval's arm. "We need to get out." "No." Duval snapped back, a firmness in his voice. "We can't do anything until we understand what's happening." Mira shared a glance with Kelly, both equally terrified, both clutching at the threads of hope frayed by uncertainty. The shadows seemed thicker, breathing in their fear, and Mira's instincts screamed at her to run. But where? Where could they go? Without warning, Duval reached for the door handle, a flash of resolve in his eyes that Mira couldn't quite understand. She grabbed his arm. "Wait. What if they're out there?" He hesitated, breath hitching. "I need to see if the tire's flat. If we're stuck here." Before Mira could argue, he flung the door open and slipped out into the night. The world around her dimmed, and for a moment, all she could hear was her own pulse thumping against her ribcage. "Duval!" she hissed, desperation spilling over. But he was already moving, crouching low, scanning the perimeter like a soldier, and then it happened. A figure emerged from the shadows, creeping closer, significant and threatening. Mira stifled a scream as the headlights caught the eerie glint of a weapon in the newcomer's hand, cold and menacing. "Get back inside!" Duval shouted, glancing sharply at her before stepping forward, blocking her view. His stance was defiant, a shield between her and the lurking menace. "Please," she whispered, fear mounting as the tension grew. "We have to run." But the figure took a step forward, face hidden beneath the hood of a jacket. "You should have never run. You can't outrun what you are." Mira's breath caught in her throat. What did that mean? Just then, nightmarish clarity struck. This was bigger than chaos. It felt like a personal attack against their very beings. Duval turned to her, panic mingling with determination. "Get ready!" But before he could finish, a dark laugh sliced through the air, cold and calculated. Mira's heart raced. Was this the beginning of the end? And in that moment, she realized, they hadn't just escaped chaos. They were now trapped in a much deeper game, one dictated by unknown forces ready to reclaim their pawns. As Duval stood firm, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, Mira's mind raced. What are we going to do? The silence was deafening. They felt the world closing in, no way out, nowhere to hide. But they had to fight. Because one thing was certain, they couldn't let the shadows win, and just behind them, the darkness stirred, waiting to pounce. As the pounding silence enveloped them, a flicker of determination ignited within Mira's heart. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about stepping into the unknown, confronting whatever darkness lay ahead. She took a deep breath, steadying herself against the encroaching fear. "Duval, we have to face this together," she said, her voice a whisper but full of strength. "We can't hide anymore." He turned to her, eyes blazing with urgency. "You don't understand what you're getting into. It's not safe." Neither was tonight, she cut in, surprise and fear dimming her fatigue. "This isn't just your fight. We're in this together now." His expression softened for a brief moment, but the looming shadows demanded attention. The figure advanced, the hooded menace revealing nothing but malevolence. "You think you're safe? You need to give up while you can," it hissed, a voice twisting with malice, slithering into their thoughts. Mira's heart raced, but there was no backing down now. "We'll never give up," she replied, finding strength in her words. "You can take everything away from us, but you won't take our resolve." Duval's grip on her arm tightened, clearly wrestling with the intensity of the situation and his instincts to protect her. "Then let us show them," he murmured, and together they stood, defying the figure that approached with palpable confidence. The figure paused, its laughter echoing darkly like thunder in the night. "Your bravado is amusing, but you don't know the depths of this game yet. You're just pieces on a board, waiting to be sacrificed. A storm of emotions whirled inside Mira: fear, rage, and most importantly, courage. "We may be pieces," she challenged, stepping forward into the light of the street lamps, "but we're not yours to control. We are our own players." With a flicker of movement, the figure lunged. In a split second, Duval moved to deflect the attack, but the shadows had regrouped, surrounding them. "Run!" he shouted, and fear propelled them into action. They tore down the alley, hearts pounding like war drums, the world blurring behind them. Every shout, every siren sounded like cries of determination as they darted through darkened streets. Mira and Duval had each other's backs, the adrenaline fueling a desperate escape. A plan formed in Mira's mind, an unfinished chapter in her life demanded closure. She wouldn't just wait for freedom, she would seize it. They sprinted toward a nearby subway entrance, the flickering lights beckoning like a beacon of hope. Inside, the air buzzed with uncertainty, but the muffled sounds of chaos faded slightly. "What now?" Kelly panted, her cheeks flushed, excitement mingling with dread. "We regroup, figure this out," Duval replied, scanning the dimly lit platform. "This isn't over. Not by a long shot." As the train screeched to a halt, they clambered inside, the metal doors sealing them from the chaos outside. Mira caught her breath, determination bubbling within her. "This isn't just a story about survival, this is about a chance to change everything." Duval looked at her, a flicker of respect dawning in his eyes. "You're right. Whatever happens next, this is just the beginning." The train lurched forward, the lights outside blurring once again as they began to speed away from the chaos. Suddenly, Mira felt a rush of something inexplicable, a realization that all the challenges she faced had forged her into something stronger. She wasn't just a girl without shoes, she was a warrior against fate, alongside Duval and Kelly. As they navigated the dark tunnels, a sense of camaraderie blossomed. "No matter the obstacles, let us not forget why we fight," she declared, her voice strong amidst the turmoil. "No more running. We have stories to tell and lives to change." Duval nodded, his shoulders relaxing. "We'll bring down the walls, one way or another." And in that moment of shared defiance, the shadows that had chased them began to dissipate. The urgency of their reality became a map toward a future brighter than the darkness that had once threatened to consume them. As the train continued its journey into the night, a flickering light emerged from the darkness ahead. With their hearts resolute, they approached the unknown, determined to reclaim their lives, and more importantly, their power. Mira knew this chapter was the start of something monumental, the initial spark igniting a fire within her and her friends that would never die. Together, they would rise against the shadows that sought to consume them. They would create their own destiny. The end was only a beginning, and as the train hurtled ever forward, the darkness behind them faded, ready to embrace the dawn of their new journey. Now, this is the moment when you all become a part of their journey. I need you to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Let's show our love for Mira, Duval, and Kelly. I'm counting on you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic conclusion, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel.